In this video tutorial, I am going to discuss about how to determine amino acid composition of protein. Suppose you are doing some research and you find out one protein and no any information is available about this protein, and now your intention is to find out amino acid composition of the protein. Now what do you mean by amino acid composition? When you want to find out what are the different amino acids along with their quantities in that particular protein, that is known as amino acid composition. So in better words, amino acid composition, it is the number of moles of each amino acid residue present per mole of protein. So the definition of amino acid composition, it is the number of moles of each amino acid residue present per mole of protein. So that we are going to learn that how to determine this amino acid composition. Suppose this is the protein, okay, and we know that protein is a long chain of amino acid. Protein is a long chain of amino acid residues which are bound with each other by the peptide bond. So basically, if I try to show it schematically, suppose these are the amino acid residues, and when they are bound with each other by the peptide bond, so this straight line is the peptide bond. Okay, this is how it looks like. Now I want to find out that what is the name of the amino acid. So that is a qualitative estimation along with their quantity. That suppose this is the glycine and this is the glycine, then I know that okay, 2 mole of glycine will be there in 1 mole of protein, right? So that qualitative as well as quantitative estimation of amino acid of particular protein, that is amino acid composition. So how to estimate it? So of course, one logical step is to destroy all the peptide bonds, right? So if you destroy all the peptide bond, what will happen? You will have a complex mixture of amino acid. So all the amino acids will now in the mixture when you destroy these peptide bonds. So now at the end, what we get? We get a complex mixture of amino acids. And from this complex mixture of amino acid, we need to separate amino acids. We need to separate amino acid, as well as after separation, we need to estimate or quantify each amino acid, right? Quantify each amino acid. So this both of this work, it can be easily carried out by the chromatography, and particularly ion exchange chromatography. Ion exchange chromatography. We have also losecond type of chromatography is also available and highly efficient one, that is reversed phase high pressure liquid chromatography. So that is reversed phase HPLC. By these two chromatographic method, we can qualitative as well as quantitatively estimate the amino acids, right? So now this step is easy. This is very easy and very straightforward, but the problem is to destroy this peptide bond, right? And this peptide bond, it can be destroyed by strong acid as well as strong alkali. If you treat this protein with the strong acid or strong alkali, both can destroy this peptide bond. But there are certain issues with the strong alkali. What are these issues? This alkali, it of course it destroys these peptide bonds, but along with destruction of the peptide bond, it also destroys these amino acids, right? And so we cannot get a complete mixture of amino acids. So this whole process will be spoiled. So strong alkali is the out of option, and particularly when you use strong alkali, serine, threonine, arginine and cysteine, these 4 amino acids are rapidly destroyed. Okay, serine, threonine, arginine and cysteine, these 4 amino acids are rapidly destroyed. So strong alkali treatment is not preferred. What about strong acids? These strong acids are preferably used. Why? Because it does not have this disadvantage. But this strong acid, it has different sets of problem, right? And this problem has a solution available. So we prefer using a strong acid. So basically hydrochloric acid is used in the concentration of 6 normal. So we use 6 normal HCl along with the 110 degree Celsius temperature. If you treat the protein solution under this condition for the 24 to 72 hours, this is the long period, then what will happen? All the amino acid will be separated, and so at the end we can get a complex mixture of amino acid. As I told you earlier that this strong acid also has certain problems. Okay, so we will discuss all these problems one by one along with their solution, how to tackle this problem. So the first problem is the tryptophan. Now this tryptophan is the amino acid which get rapidly destroyed by the strong acid. Okay, it is destroyed by strong acid. So now how to estimate, how to qualitative and quantitative estimate this tryptophan? So for that we have very easy technique available, and that is UV spectrophotometry. UV ultraviolet spectrophotometry. So by using this technique we can easily estimate the quantity of tryptophan present in particular protein. So this problem is solved. The second problem is hydroxyl group containing amino acid. So that is OH group containing amino acids. We know that OH group containing amino acids are serine and threonine. And what is the problem in this case? The problem is that these amino acids, serine and threonine, they are getting destroyed by this strong acid, but not rapidly. They are slowly destroyed during hydrolysis. So slowly destroyed when you utilize this strong acid. So what is the solution? So solution is very tricky one. See, here I told you, in this process I told you that we are going to heat it for the 24 to 72 hours. So suppose this arrow, it also shows the timeline. Okay, suppose this is the point at which 24 hours heating was done, and suppose at this point 48 hours of heating was done, and at the end this is the point where 72 hours of heating was done, right? So what we do, once 24-hour heating is done into this protein solution, we take small sample in another test tube or in another place, and then we do separation and quantification of amino acid at this point. We are just taking a small sample. Suppose this is the 10 ml. So here at this point I will take out 1 ml solution, and rest of the 9 ml will be under continuous heating, right? So of this 1 ml solution I will try to separate amino acid and quantify each amino acid. By this, of course, the same method, ion exchange chromatography and reverse phase HPLC, whatever suits me. So by that I have the readings about the serine and threonine, and suppose I will take just one example of serine. Suppose at 24 hours I got serine molecule as a 4 moles, right? Then what I will do, the remaining 9 ml is under continuous heating. So at the end of 48 hours, what I will take? I will take another 1 ml out of this solution. So remaining will be 8 ml solution, and this 1 ml solution I will again try to separate amino acid and quantify each amino acid. So of course I will get some reading about this serine. Suppose at the 48 hours this number will be less than 4 moles, right? As at first 24 hour it was a 4 mole, and as they are getting slowly destroyed, what I will get over here? Suppose I am getting 3 moles, and then I will end up heating at the 72 hours, and along with the bulk I am also going to estimate serine, right? So suppose at the end of 72 hours I am getting only 2 moles. So now I can solve this problem by plotting one graph. Okay, here the moles of serine, and here we have time limit. So this is 24 hours, then we have 48 hours, and then we have 72 hours, right? And here we have 1, 2, 3 and 4. So, at the 24 hour there was a 4 moles. So, 24 hour I have 4 moles. At the 48 hours I had 3 moles. So, 48 hours I have 3 moles, and at the 72 hours I have only 2 moles, right. So, 2 moles. So, then I can draw a graph and it will be a linear. So, I can extrapolate this graph on this y axis, and suppose here I am getting as a 5 mole at the 0 time. I had extrapolated, this is 0 time, okay, 0 hours. So, when I extrapolate this graph I get a 5 mole. So, by extrapolating I can estimate that what original quantity of serine was there in the protein, right. And same thing you can do with the threonine. So, the second problem is also solved. I hope you understood it. Okay. So, now the third disadvantage or third problem with the acid heating is that bulky aliphatic side chain containing amino acid, bulky aliphatic side chain or R group containing amino acid, they have different set of problem. These bulky aliphatic side chain containing amino acids are the valine, leucine and isoleucine. Now, as they have bulky aliphatic side chain plus it is hydrophobic one. So, what happen? Suppose this is the valine and this is the leucine and this is the peptide bond. So, both of these amino acid they have a bulky aliphatic side chain. So, what will happen? Suppose this is the side chain of this valine and this is the side chain of the leucine, and both are hydrophobic one. So, what will happen? For the hydrolysis of this peptide bond, water molecule has to enter over here, and because of this hydrophobic nature of side chain, water cannot enter. So, what will happen? These peptide bonds are not effectively destroyed, or you can say slow hydrolysis of peptide bond, slow hydrolysis of peptide bond. And which peptide bond? The peptide bond in which bulky aliphatic side chain containing amino acid is taking part. So, how to solve this? This is the problem. How to solve? What is the solution? The solution is extended heating. Extended heating or extended treatment with 6 normal HCl and temperature. So, what will happen? All the peptide bonds will get broken down and we can easily estimate all this bulky side chain containing amino acid. Now, the fourth problem. What is the fourth problem? It is with the sulfur containing amino acid. Sulfur containing amino acid. We know that we have cysteine and methionine. What happens in the presence of acid and heat? This sulfur containing amino acid, they are oxidized. They are oxidized even before hydrolysis. Okay. So, they are unstable during hydrolysis. So, what happens to cysteine? Cysteine gets converted to cysteic acid, that is cysteic acid, and this methionine is converted to methionine sulfone. Methionine sulfone. So, instead of cysteine and methionine, in our complex amino acid mixture, in this complex amino acid mixture, we get cysteic acid and methionine sulfate. So, whenever we quantify 1 mole of cysteic acid, we should understand that we got 1 mole of cysteic acid in the protein. When we get 1 mole of methionine sulfone, we have to understand that we have got 1 mole of methionine in our sample protein. Okay. What is the fifth problem? The fifth problem is with the aspergine and glutamine, that is extra amide group containing amino acid. Now, the problem is that this aspergine and glutamine, they have beta and gamma amino group, right? They have extra amino group, and this extra amino group is very much sensitive to hydrolysis. So, what happens? This extra amino group, it released as ammonia. It released as ammonia, which is in the gas form. So this amino group is lost, and so this aspargine is converted to aspartic acid, and glutamine is converted to glutamic acid. So what happens in our protein? In our protein, there are originally certain amino acids are aspartic acid and glutamic acid, but along with that, this extra amino group, as it is getting released from aspargine and glutamine, what happens? This aspargine will add to aspartic acid quantity, and this glutamine also adds to glutamic acid, right? So this is the big problem. So how to tackle this? So we have only half solution available for this. What is the solution? We can do this extra amino group which is getting released as ammonia. So what we can do? We can quantify this ammonia. So what will happen? Once we quantify ammonia, it can give us estimate of aspargine and glutamine. This quantification of ammonia, it can help us to estimate aspargine and glutamine. But of course, we cannot separately estimate that how much aspargine is there and how much glutamine is there, right? We can combinedly estimate that aspargine and glutamine both makes, for example, 2 mole in the particular protein. We cannot separately say how many moles of aspargine and how many moles of glutamine. We have to always state in combination that aspargine plus glutamine in our example protein is either 2 mole or 3 mole, like that. Again, whatever quantity comes, that we have to deduct from aspartic acid and glutamic acid reading, so we can get those readings properly. So these are the certain problems with the acid hydrolysis along with their solution. So by this method, if we follow this method, and then we get a complex mixture of amino acid, and by this method we can separate as well as quantify the amino acid. So this was all about how to determine amino acid composition of the protein. If you have any query or confusion, please write it down in the comment section below. Thank you.